Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another Destiny video, and more Taken King goodness. Now we've seen quite a bit of gameplay since the very first trailer, and each time Bungie release a new video, there's normally a handful of interesting weapons or armor pieces snuck in there that spark some conversation. More often than not, these items are exotics. So in this video, I'm going to put together a list of all the currently known exotics in the Taken King. If you guys do enjoy this video, then it'd be mega awesome if you could hit that like button and let me know in the comments down below which of these exotics you're most excited for. So let's kick this off with something new. If you saw GameInformer's latest news drop that came out yesterday, you probably noticed this weapon. It currently doesn't have a name, but as models go, it's most akin to the MP40 from Call of Duty, albeit with a slightly different magazine. As you can clearly see from the icons in the bottom corner, and the obvious lightning effect emitting from the gun itself, this deals arc damage. If you cast your mind back to the GameInformer article, they made reference to an auto rifle that shoots arc lightning, so it's likely that what you're seeing here is that very weapon. Also, if you noticed how when the Guardian jumps and shoots in the air, it appears that he floats for a bit, and this text appears on the left side of the screen saying overcranked. Again, there's no official word on what this does yet, but it's most likely one of the exotic perks, and maybe if you shoot while in the air you deal bonus damage or something like that. Who knows, but either way it looks pretty cool. Then next up, let's talk about the long-awaited Vesta 347 Dynasty. We have finally seen it in game, both in yesterday's video and in the GameInformer teaser, so at least we know we'll finally be able to get our hands on it. Now this one in particular we do actually know the perks for, however they've been known since before the House of Wolves came out, so it's entirely possible that these will change by the time we see it in the Taken King. But as it currently stands, you have Arekkz, which improves accuracy while airborne, and you then have two optional perks. Goliath will give you increased armor for 15 seconds after non-precision kills, whilst David will give you increased agility for 15 seconds after precision kills. Then next up you have this one. Again, we don't currently have a name for this, but we first saw this in the original reveal trailer, and it's quite clearly a very fancy looking shotgun. And while we don't know what the perks for this thing are, we do know a bit about its origin. If you look at the back of it, you'll see this emblem of the bull. This is the emblem for Tex Mechanica, who are the same foundry that produced The Last Word, which explains the cowboy feel for it. It's got a pretty intricate design on the side, which again is something that's also present in The Last Word, so you can be sure this will be pretty fun to use. Moving on, we have this. No, it's not the Stranger's Rifle. This is actually a gun called No Time to Explain. Now we're assuming that it's an exotic and not a legendary, but regardless, this is the same model as the Stranger's Rifle. It appears that it will once again become useful, and likely upgraded in a similar manner to how the Husk of the Pit went to the Eidolon ally, and in turn led to the Necrochasm. Quite how we'll upgrade it, we don't yet know, but given that a lot of NPCs will come bearing quests this time round, I wouldn't be surprised if this one was one of those quest-based exotics, and not just something that relies on a random object drop. Then next up we have the Sleeper Simulant. Now I've already covered this in a video the other day, so if you want to see this weapon in more detail, I'll leave a link to the video in the description box down below. But this is a fusion rifle that goes in your heavy slot. The rounds you fire over-penetrate and they bounce off surfaces. Once upgraded, it can bounce up to 5 times, meaning this could pack quite a nasty punch in an enclosed environment. Then moving on from there, you have the Jade Rabbit. This is the PlayStation exclusive this time round, so if you're on Xbox, unfortunately we're going to have to wait a little while for this one. Supposedly, this sports a 13 round magazine and has a sniper-like scope, so it's supposed to be a combination of kinetic power and long-range accuracy. In other words, if you're looking for some middle ground between sniper and scout rifle, then this is for you. Moving on, you then have this one, the Fate of All Fools. Now this has been around for quite a while in the database, and we originally thought obtaining this thing hinged on some rather intense Trials of Osiris bounties, but having experienced trials since the release of House of Wolves, that is clearly not the case. So will it show up in the Taken King? Who knows? Maybe the No Time to Explain will replace it, or maybe we'll finally get the Trials of Osiris link and those bounties will present themselves in a sort of Trials of Osiris Season 2. There's obviously only one way to find out, and that is to wait and see. Then lastly, on the weapon front, before I move over to armour, we have this. Now I'll say right now that this might not be an exotic. This could in fact instead be one of the prototype weapons you borrow from the gunsmith. However, the reason I brought it up is because there is a very noticeable flaming aura that surrounds this weapon, in a very similar way to how the lightning surrounds the Thunderlord. So the question is, could this be Thunderlord's solar brother, or as mentioned, is it simply just a fancy looking prototype weapon? Again, we'll have to wait and see, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now finally, let's move on to armour. Now we have no names nor perks for any of these items, so pictures will have to do for now. But first up you have this Warlock Stag, or Reindeer Helmet. We get a couple of very short glimpses of it, and I've got to say it does look pretty damn awesome. However, it is also entirely possible that this is not an exotic helmet, and could instead be the Warlock's Iron Banner helmet. I appreciate that sounds a little bit far-fetched, but if you remember the Hunter's Wolf Cloak and the Titan's fancy looking Knight helmet, it could well be that Season 3 Iron Banner gear is set to look a lot more striking. Admittedly, this helmet does look a little too outlandish to actually be a legendary, but either way, still food for thought. On top of that, you have this Warlock Fishbowl helmet. It's got a rather interesting swirling essence inside the helmet, and goes rather nicely with this cool bond on his arm. If I had to hazard a guess, I'd say this would be a Stormcaller exotic, because what's inside the helmet could also be likened to a thunderstorm. You also have these Warlock Gauntlets, which have a placeholder name, but they appear to have arc lightning pulsing through them, so I imagine they'd also be geared towards the Stormcaller, kind of like an arc version of the Sunbreakers. And finally, in this shot here, looking at the Hunter, his gauntlets look a little bit too outlandish to match with a regular armor set, or to simply be a legendary, especially when you look at the part on the forearm. Again, no information whatsoever, purely speculation. But that, my friends, is it. Those are all the exotics that I believe to exist currently based on what we've seen in the various gameplay and trailers. And as and when I find out more, or get any sort of confirmation, you'll be the first to know. If you guys did enjoy this video, then it'd be ace if you could hit that like button, and let me know down below what you think of the items shown, or whether you've spotted any I may have missed. Thanks again for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.